A warm welcome to all wrestling fans to a new interview at Wrestling Infos. My name is Stefan, aka PBC Baby, and my guest today is none other than the reigning Impact World Champion, Steve Maclin. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, perfect. I mean, I can say it's an honor for me because it's not every day for us to talk to the Impact World Champion.
No, I appreciate that. It's not every day I get to talk to people from Germany, so get to sit here and do media. So it's a win-win for both sides.
Perfect. So let's get to the first question. Your next match at Under Siege, you will defend your title against PCO, a true veteran of the sport. Do you see PCO as an opponent? Also, how do you see PCO as an opponent, and how do you rate your chances of winning?
I rate my chances pretty high, but I also look at PCO as an opponent that is a threat. He's literally the Canadian Frankenstein. He's the perfect creation. He can't be killed. Obviously, that's been shown from multiple times, but I also have beaten him twice before. So maybe the third time is going to be the charm at Under Siege.
Yeah, you already called him the Canadian Frankenstein. I mean, you're going to wrestle him in Canada, his home country. Do you think this gives him an advantage?
It depends. Does a Frankenstein even care where he's from or where he's wrestling? That's one of those things if he's aware of it. He's a very adaptable human being, but so am I. I say human being very lightly for him because he's a mixture of a bunch of things, and he's obviously shown that he's inhuman. But could it be an advantage? Yes, possibly. I know Canada is not a big fan of me, being the arrogant American that I am. But we'll see how it comes out at Under Siege. I do plan to walk out as the Impact World Champion still at Under Siege.
At Under Siege, are there any other matches at the pay-per-view you're looking forward to, except the number one contender match for your title?
I have my eyes on that number one contenders match very, very closely. I'm sure to be watching that as much as I possible, getting ready for my own match. But obviously seeing my wife, Deonna Purrazzo, against Jordan Grace for the fourth time and seeing if Jordan can possibly beat her or not beat her, we'll see. But the roster, hands down, for the card is just, it's a show stealer anywhere. Especially another one would be Chris Sabin and Trey Miguel for the X Division title. That's something I would keep my eyes on because option C is always out there, so you never know.
Speaking of the number one contender match, who do you think will win this match, and which opponent would you like to face?
I'd face any opponent that comes out of that match. I've been in so many different multi-man matches, but for this to happen, the opportunity there for a rematch with Alex Shelley, I would love. Eddie Edwards. Actually, no, Eddie's not in that one. I should know that. We'll see. If anything, Alex Shelley is my answer to that question because that's one of those matches I would like to have again somewhere down the road. And if this is an opportunity for him to go after the Impact World title, as I retain it Under Siege, we'll find out.
I mean, since Impact had a female world champion in the past, what's your take on possibly defending your title against your spouse, Deonna Purrazzo?
I'm not a huge fan of intergender wrestling. It's not my cup of tea. I will watch it, I will do it, but for me as a wrestler, but then also as a fan and who I am as a human being, I don't ever want to put my hands on another woman. That's just my thing. So it's not my cup of tea of pro wrestling, but if it was to happen and it needed to happen, I would just gladly hand the title to my wife because I would not be hitting my wife.
Great answer. If you were allowed to pick a challenger from another promotion, who would it be and why?
Name the promotion. Any promotion.
Any promotion, maybe AEW?
From AEW right now, I would say an Adam Cole. Adam Cole's up there for me just because that's one of those matches that kind of was never really given to me, or the opportunity wasn't ever there in NXT. We were in 6-man matches for tag matches, but we never had a one-on-one. And that's one of those people that I think I would have a good match with and the fans would love.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, my name at Wrestling Infos is PBC Baby. I mean, the Baby is from Adam Cole. I would love to see this match. At Rebellion 2023, you were able to win the vacant title in a match against Kushida, but actually you should have challenged Josh Alexander. How far along were the plans for the match against Josh, and what was your reaction when you found out about his injury?
Injuries suck. They happen in this business, and it's just those things we can't control. But then at the same time, I try to tell everybody going into Rebellion that it could have always been Kushida and I anyway, just because Josh was facing him at the multiverse over WrestleMania weekend out in California. And that's one of those things where people forget that would have happened. So it's one of those things where I hope people want that match still, and eventually at some point Josh and I will lock horns, whether it is for the Impact World title or not. But I do plan to hold the world title as long as I possibly can, so that I can beat the longest reigning Impact World Champion in history in this company.
So we can expect to see a clash between you and Josh when he's fully recovered.
I hope so. That's the plan.
Perfect. Now that you've reached the top of the mountain, what are your goals left in Impact?
To hold the title as long as possible, and just to be the best ever. That to leave my lasting legacy in Impact Wrestling, and that's having my name etched in history. It is now as the Impact World Champion, but for people to, when they look at Impact Wrestling, they see the name Steve Maclin, or they think of the name Steve Maclin.
Before you, big names like Sting, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, or AJ Styles have already made it to the history books as Impact World Champion. Do you have a former TNA or Impact champion who's kind of a role model for you and your reign as champion?
No, I'm my own man. But if I was to look at anybody, it'd be like a Samoa Joe, just for how adaptable he was to everyone else. He could work with anybody in any style with the X division, and then even being a world heavyweight champion. That would probably be the best blueprint to go off of. But I am my own man, and I do what I can on my own. And that's what I want to do, is build my name of Steve Maclin. And again, when people think of Impact Wrestling, I want them to think of Steve Maclin.
Speaking about Impact Wrestling as such, Impact usually holds the weeklies and pay-per-views in smaller halls and often records a lot in advance. How would you rate the current situation, and would you like to see Impact back to hosting weeklies at different venues, or in long run broadcasting the weeklies live again?
That would just mean more money for the boys and the girls in the back, more time on the road. But I do enjoy the schedule of what we have right now with the tapings and pay-per-views that we do. The smaller, intimate venues are nice, but do I wish to be in the arenas and selling out stadiums? Yes. But that comes in the long run. That comes in time. And that's what we're trying to build to. And I think we're moving in the right direction as a brand of Impact Wrestling, with being on DAZN, Fight, Impact Plus, Access TV. There's so many different avenues to watch Impact Wrestling, and that's one of those things we're trying to get out there. But if we are to get to another major network at some point, that would be amazing.
Speaking of amazing arenas, maybe Impact Wrestling will be hosting shows in Australia for the first time in July. What new opportunities do you see for Impact and for you personally?
For us to just be going internationally again is awesome. It's something we haven't done in 5 years. And after COVID and everything, and being able to open up those borders again and travel the world, especially being the Impact World Champion, and to be the marquee of wherever we do go, I'm looking forward to that, especially going to Wagga Wagga for the first time in Australia. I've never been to Australia myself, so I'm looking forward to that trip.
And one question I have to ask as a German. I could see Masha Slamovic and Trey Miguel at the 16 karat gold tournament this year in Oberhausen, Germany for the WXW. And they had fantastic performances. We loved it. So do you watch European wrestling, and when will we be able to see you in Germany?
That's up to the promoters out there in Germany to contact me at stevemaclinbookings@gmail.com if you would like to. I would love to travel the world anywhere. I would love to work anywhere and everywhere. That's what I love to do. I would like to defend my Impact World title anywhere. To come over to Germany would be awesome. Just because it's another tour that I'll check off the bucket list of things I could do in this business and travel in the world. And the first time, I've never been lied to by my recruiter from being in the military to go to wrestling. And it's just one of those cool things. You get to travel the world and experience different cultures. But yes, I would love to come over to Germany.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. He's ready to come to Germany. Book him now, please. You already had your past in the WWE. Now you're at Impact Wrestling. Is AEW an issue for you to complete the big 3 promotions in the USA in your career?
No, I wouldn't say. If that was to come down the road, then I would love the opportunity. But I'm really focused on my time right now as the Impact World Champion in Impact Wrestling, and really building Impact Wrestling to what I feel it should be and what the roster brings and how much better it could be. And again, like you were saying before, to go into arenas and out of the smaller venues that are intimate settings is something we want to build on and get the name out there. And I think what we're doing in Impact Wrestling is just something beautiful right now. And it's something that's just organic, and it's happening where it is pro wrestling from top to bottom, the start of the show to the end of the show. There's everybody means something.
Okay. In the last 2 years, you've wrestled several top stars as well as future legends at Impact. Who do you think was the most beneficial for yourself to work with?
Two of them. I would say Chris Sabin. It really kind of put that out there for me, just because he's been with Impact Wrestling now for 20 years, and he's just one of those names that I don't think is brought up enough of how good he is and what he's done for the business. And then standing toe-to-toe with Bully Ray at Bound for Glory this past year in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. That was one of those moments where I looked at that, I was like, okay, cool. This is something I'd like to do down the road. And I learned a lot from that as well, just because it put me from a moment where I thought I was going to be winning the Call Your Shot Gauntlet to go after the Impact World title, to now going back to the drawing board and figure out what I was going to do.
Okay. The next question might be a little more complicated, but I need 2 answers from you. Which match from your career would you like to experience a second time because it was so good? And which one would you like to have a second chance to make it better? Tough question, I know.
Yes. In Impact Wrestling, I would love to go back and have another match again with Alex Shelley. Last time we wrestled was on a television episode that we did in Philadelphia. That's one of those ones I'd like to have back. Even though I loved it, I would like just more time, more work together, because it was the first time we wrestled together in a long time. And I'd love to just sink our teeth into a story. And then the other one I would say would be, I would say the finals of the Dusty Classic against Ricochet and Aleister Black at that time. Myself and Blake, I think us winning would have been the better outcome, just for where NXT was going at that time. But yeah, that's another one I would change and like to go back to.
It's funny that you mentioned this match, because maybe this match was the one that came to my mind, because if I remember correctly, Aleister Black and Ricochet were heading to the main roster, and you guys were so on fire, and I'd love to see you win that match, because I agree with you. I think it would be the better outcome.
But hey, it's in the past. So we're moving to the present, and that's being an Impact World Champion. That got me to where I am now as the Impact World Champion and getting ready for Under Siege.
Yeah, and only after 2 years you became Impact World Champion, and you can work alongside your wife. The path to Impact seemed like the perfect decision you could have done. What are your goals to your future career, like the next 3 or 5 years?
Oh, I would love to compete in New Japan, in Japan itself. I would love to continue to win titles or retain my title as long as possible here in Impact Wrestling. And that's kind of my goal, is just being able to enjoy life. I'm enjoying pro wrestling right now. And that's the one good thing, is being able to go to work, kill myself while doing it, and beat up my body more, but also love it at the same time. Not a lot of people get to say that. And there are the moments where you're just like, oh, this stinks, or this, blah, blah, blah. I don't like this. But I'm just very much enjoying life, enjoying being able to travel with my wife, and then just eventually start a family. That's one of those goals too, but that's also up to my wife.
Yeah. Some questions to your career, your beginning of your career. You started as Tommy Maclin. Now you're Steve Maclin. Is there any deeper meaning to the surname of Maclin?
No, originally, so Tommy Maclin I took from the movie Four Brothers with Mark Wahlberg. He was Tommy Mercer, and I wanted to originally go with the name Tommy Mercer, and there was a guy on the Indies, his real name was Tommy Mercer. So I was like, all right, I got to think of a different name. What's something that has a good ring to it and still is the TM that I wanted? So what I wanted to do was just try to find like an Irish name. So I'm like, okay, Maclin. I just found Maclin. So Tommy Maclin, the trademark. All right, cool. That's kind of what I went to. And then once I got signed with WWE, it became Steve Cutler, but really my name is Steve as well. So once being let go and trying to figure out how do I rebrand myself and put my name there, how do I take a little bit of old and new and still keep it me? So that's how I just wound up with Steve Maclin.
Okay, last question is not really a question, but please tell our viewers why you are the perfect Impact World Champion and why you will defeat PCO on May 26th at Under Siege.
Because I adapt and overcome in any situation. I am the perfect weapon to put against the perfect creation in the Frankenstein that is that Canadian man that just can't be killed. So at May 26th at Under Siege on Impact Plus, you get to watch me dismantle single-handedly PCO one by one to retain my Impact World Champion. And that's just what it's going to keep being. It's tag 'em, bag 'em, and mayhem for all.
Now, that's a closing. At this point, I have no choice but to thank you for your time. Wish you best of luck to your title defense. Bye.
Thank you very much.